Hey everyone, last video here for lesson one, and it's on fractions. And the reason fractions are so important is because of what happened with us in the old imperial system. So people my age, we grew up with 3/16ths, 9/16ths, 7/16ths, half, all those kind of fractions. So again, we kind of had to use fractions right from the get-go, whereas metric system, we used to use decimals a lot. But it's important again for us to kind of know that we can use fractions and use our past fraction skills to kind of help us do imperial measurements, or just to be able to do fractions because we can. Now in our website here, I linked something called the fraction calculator, and I actually kind of like how the fraction calculator does questions. Like our first question was 12/16, and we're supposed to simplify it. I really like how it shows that you are dividing both the numerator and the denominator, the top of the fraction and the bottom of the fraction by the same thing. So that's real important when it comes time for simplifying. So whenever we want to simplify, we want to make sure we divide fractions by the same number in the top and bottom. So again, we could divide 12 by 4 and 16 by 4 and get 3/4, or you could have done it in steps, divided by 2, divided by 2. So there's a variety of ways to simplify. But again, what I like about that website, about the fraction calculator, is it actually shows you the steps. So when we want to start comparing fractions, it's kind of like comparing things when you guys did a little bit of algebra back in math 9, or back when you were young and you put all your red buttons together and all your blue buttons together. You put things by similarities. So if we're going to talk about fractions in terms of similarities, we have to make sure that we're going to talk about fractions with a common denominator. So when I have 3/4, 7/12, and 2/3, if I want to compare them, I actually have to make them all 12s. So 3/4 times the bottom by 3 times the top by 3. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12. So 3/4 is 9/12. I put it at the end here because I did a little bit of rearranging from the largest to smallest. 7/12 is in black, it's 7/12. And 2 times 4, 3 times 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, is 8/12. So from lowest fraction to largest fraction, 7/12, 8/12, 9/12. That's really hard to see unless you have a common denominator. So that's the same thing we did in B. I looked at 8, 4, and 16 and decided my best denominator for those was going to be 16. So I chose to go 8 times 2, and if I times the bottom by 2, I times the top by 2. I went 4 times 4 is 16, and 3 times 4 is 12. So my fractions became 10/16, 11/16, and 12/16. And I just kind of put them in order from smallest to largest. And again, I could have went back and rewrote them as the originals, but I just wrote them as they were from smallest to largest. And then if you know how to compare things, because you can put them in same sizes, what we really want you to be able to do is we want you to add and subtract them. So when you talk about adding fractions, it's kind of like going to a store and looking at what do you have for size 8 shoes, or what do you have for size 8 pants, or what do you have, you know what I mean? So size 8, I have 3/8, which means I have 3 size 8s, and someone puts another size 8 into my pile. I now have 4 size 8s. That's kind of how I think about adding fractions. Is these are the sizes, and I have 4 of them, 4/8. So then the skill we always use is to simplify. So like you did in question number 1, make sure we can simplify. Divide by 4, divide by 4, or divide by 2 twice. So when you're going to do fractions, you need to know, adding, subtracting, you need to know the size. So 5/8 and 1/2 has to be size 8. When I have 5, 6, and 3/4, I have to have size 12. And when I have size 8 and size 3, I have to work with size 24. So that's what I want to make sure we can do. So again, just if I go through D, I'm looking for size 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. 7 times 3 is 21. 3 times 8 is 24. 2 times 8 is 16. So my 7/8 is 21 over 24. My 2/3 is 16 over 24. When I go to do that question, I get 37 over 24. And I'm okay with leaving it as an improper fraction, we call it. And again, if I go to my fraction calculator, and if I go to my adding fraction questions, and if I put in here 7/8 plus, boy, my memory's bad, 7/8 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, calculate.